So clearly this is a case that we are following closely, and we really must say that the police should also deploy these tactics when fighting kidnappings and all of that, because this is where we really need all of those tactics to draw out the kidnappers, to draw out those who are committing heinous crimes in the country. We'll take a moment now, and when we return, we'll talk about the Lagos fire. Let's listen to the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu speaking about that. I'll bring you more.
The initial report that shows that the fire started on the 4th and the 5th floor, which is somewhat over the ground floor. And if you notice, the first responders were on ground. They came with aerial ladder, fire equipment that could attack, the fire at that level. But over time, especially from around 8 p.m. last night, the fire became very aggressive, and it moved to other higher floors. Initial suspicion would mean that there are a lot of inflammable, combustive materials that were all in the storage facilities, which made, ability to be able to respond and kill and quench the fire a lot more difficult. So far, I'm told that there are no casualties, thankfully, but we've taken about 7 to 10 people to hospital with the LASEMA ambulances that we have here. You've seen that the main building, there's been 2 partial collapse that you can notice. And so what you will see is eventually we'll have to take down this building, the entire building. I've set up a committee that will be headed by the Honorable Commissioner for Special Duties, who will bring forward, what will be the best mode for us to bring down the entire building within the shortest possible time.
Welcome back. It's still the morning brief right here on Channels Television. And you just heard the governor of Lagos State there, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, speaking on the fire that occurred in the market at the Afriland Towers just days ago. And according to reports, the fire, the Great Nigeria Insurance House, and according to reports, the fire continues even after, safety efforts of firemen have been deployed to the scene. Let's get more perspectives, especially about how to prevent further fire disasters in the future. And joining us to help on this particular one, we have virtually Mr. Fayo Williams, Fellow Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria. Mrs. Fayo Williams, she's a Fellow Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria, and she joins us virtually on the program. Good morning, madam. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. And unlike what Dayo Akitobi said, I got the memo, so I'm one up on him this morning.
Yes, indeed, you got the memo. But speaking of those who do not get the memo, more often than not, it would have to be our fellow Nigerians at the Balogun market. How can we begin to attribute the constant fire safety concerns? Is it more as a result of human error, or we should be attributing it to the harsh weather conditions, that we often experience at this time of the year?
Yes, firstly, I would like to send a note of sympathy to those who must have lost a lot of assets, their goods. At this time of Christmas, this would be quite difficult for them. Many others have been displaced. This fire at GNI, as you rightly said, has spread to 4 or 5 buildings. So some people will not be in their homes right now, and we express our concern and commiseration. Now, with regards to preventing these fires, it is so unfortunate that we are going through this again. You had mentioned the Afriland fire, which took place 16th September. And I have been, talking about how to prevent this by putting in place an emergency action plan. We need all buildings that are multi-story, even a building, your own flat, your own home should have an emergency action plan. And just to underscore this, somewhere in the middle of the year, our 30 kVA generator caught fire. We had 2 9 kg DCP equipment. We brought them out. A neighbor from across the road brought that out. Fire quenched, insurance cover. We got the money to do the repair. That is how losses should be properly mitigated. So a situation, what we have in Nigeria, I would say, is the total lack of safety awareness among the populace. Always reaching out to say, come over to Macedonia and help us. It's not going to work. You are a facility manager of a 25-story building. You should have a risk assessment done, an emergency response team, designated fire wardens who patrol. You must have the right fire equipment, including wet risers, fireballs, addressable fire alarm system, sprinkler system, high pressure hose. If you give me the opportunity, I will give you a real life case study of a 27-story building that has all the best practices, and they've kept fire at bay for the past 10 years, and they're in Lagos. This same Lagos where we've had 50 market fires in the past 7 years.
No, you can go right ahead, because the idea is to curb reoccurrence, because although it is reduced, but at some point it looks like a constant incident, if you will, during the Yuletide. Especially at peak periods, you hear these things happen, the Harmattan and all of that, and you begin to wonder, is it that we don't learn our lessons? So there's a disconnect somewhere. So please go right ahead before I throw in my question.
Thank you very much. So the Institute of Safety Professionals, which I belong to, I'm a fellow of, and equally passionate about safety, we have been calling for a paradigm shift in the way people address these incidents. It's always, oh, fire service didn't arrive in time. What have you done on a micro level to ensure you are well equipped? So going quickly over to the case study of the 27-story building right there on Marina in Lagos, they have employed 12 professional fire service officers to cover 24/7. So you have shifts, and there's always fire service officials, trained professionals on ground. They have fire marshals on every floor. They've made policies, including no use of extension boxes from your home and using your own microwave or your own kettle, nothing like that. They switch off lights after 9 p.m. They have a multi-gallon Braithwaite tank on the roof of this 27-story building, not linked to any restroom or any domestic use. It's straight there to augment whatever water the fire tender brings. They have a fire tender, they have equipment with ladders reaching up to the 11th floor. So we had our Governor Sanwo-Olu, our dear governor, who did say that the fire started from about the 4th or 5th floor, and have been in touch with some of the safety professionals who were right there, who were eyewitnesses to when this thing started. I spoke to the person who made the first call, because we have several WhatsApp groups and the safety professionals are always collaborating. So the equipment that first came, it appears we were not able to get to that floor. And again, people prioritize security, boarded up the whole place. Hardly did you have any ventilation. Hardly could you have access. So the fire raged on uncontrollably. This is not how to build. This is not how to store. If we are going to convert a building to a warehouse, it must be library style with aisles. We need to stack, we need to ventilate, and we need to make sure that 3 ingredients that must come together to cause a fire are separated: fuel, oxygen, and a source of heat or ignition. When you talk about fuel, people are thinking of a jerry can of petrol. That is not fuel. That's not the only fuel. Shoes burn, clothes burn, curtains burn, bags burn, panels, polyethylene, and all kinds of panels in the cladding of walls of building, they burn. Furniture burns. So those are all fuel. So whenever you have fuel, in inverted commas, in any place, you must make sure there's no source of heat, and there must be proper access, proper exits to all these places. I'll pause there.
Well, Madam, we must talk about our building practices, and I know you made reference to it, because it's sad to say, but there are other fires waiting to happen. Seeing
it's sad
the way our buildings are constructed. First off, the construction practices. As much as people say, well, let's speak good of the place. I'm sorry, it's below par. Because when fires then happen, access is even tough. First, the buildings are erected in such ways that there's poor ventilation, there isn't much space, almost like they erected it to help the fire happen. And then everywhere is choked. It's choked up. So I don't know if this is how we just continue to live and keep, they say you pray and reject that the fire won't happen. Well, something must give. And I don't know if that conversation is happening. And what does it look like we must do to ensure that at least we have a semblance of decency and I don't know.
Prayer alone will not do it. We need to take action. Like I said, the Institute of Safety Professionals is calling for a paradigm shift. Just as we had reforms in the tax sector, we need reforms in virtually every sector. So this will come with some political will. In a mega city like Lagos, there may be need to selectively look at buildings that are totally inaccessible, blocking, the free entrance of these fire tenders, preventing the regulators from doing their job. There may be a need. I'm not in the government, so the government will have to sit down and look at that, because the government has done some demolition of slum areas in the past. And again, I would like to say that Lagos State particularly had some good initiatives with regard to fire safety and awareness. It's an organization, Rely Supply Limited, has supplied over 100 schools in a particular education district with smoke detectors and fire extinguishers, and we did small on-the-side training. It's a good initiative, but that's one district out of 6. So how do we start getting a policy in place that any school, whether private or practice, must have X equipment, X trained personnel, designated first aider in place? If you are managing a high-rise building, because I was lucky to be invited to speak to Association of Facility Management, of Nigeria, the Lagos State branch, in October 25th, after the Afriland fire. They said it was an eye-opener for them, a complete eye-opener, that a facility manager has such responsibilities. A facility manager is a lifesaver, and every one of those buildings must have facility managers, must have a safety officer, should have fire safety marshals in place. Now let's talk about environmental conditions. There are wildfires going on all over the world. You know what has happened in Spain and Portugal. You know what has happened in Australia. You know what's happened in America. Obviously, environmental conditions would aggravate a fire. And when you have buildings that are sandwiched together, almost like sardines in a can, it is an accident waiting to happen. So as we are praying, I'm praying for political will to prevent this kind of construction going on, to insist that current multi-level story buildings come up for a meeting and make sure that they have the right personnel, the right equipment, and the right attitude to safety. Because if you don't do fire drills, we're going to experience what we saw in Afriland, people wanting to jump through windows, jumping, unfortunately, to their death. Very sad.
And
so we need to change a whole lot of things. Thank you.
What you've just said is quite instructive, an appropriate attitude to fire safety. And perhaps we should just, draw attention to the significance of the location of this fire. It is happening right at the heart of the hub of commerce in Lagos. I'm sure that I have shopped in one of the shops that I'm seeing, right here on my screen. And a number of Nigerians who are watching now may have at one time or the other shopped in one of these, shops, that has been engulfed by flames. It is an international, by no form of exaggeration, commerce hub. And so as a result of the significance of this historical shopping center, who should be taking responsibility for instituting this paradigm shift that you talk about? Because the Lagos fire safety controller has been putting out an explanation, and he said despite the fact that they got there on time, about within 15 minutes of the distress call, that the presence of combustible materials in the building made it difficult to contain the fire, and that speaks of a serious lack of understanding of fire safety. So who should be taking responsibility for this and engendering this paradigm shift in terms of safety culture in buildings that you're talking about?
Thank you. Now, I just want to quickly mention that I know this place like the back of my hand. Historically, my mom is from Lagos, and Iga Kosoko used to be a regular, holiday visit for us, running along Martins, Bangboshe, and all that in Lagos. Many of us have nostalgia, of this area. And of course, we have shopped in some of the places we are seeing in ruins. Is particularly saddening. So safety, as we say it in ISPON, Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria, is everybody's responsibility. And safety begins with the man in the mirror. Safety never takes a holiday. So we need all stakeholders to come together. The government is free to call on the professional bodies. We have societies of engineers, we have the ISPON, we have Facility Management Association. Let's all come together. The Lagos Safety Commission has been a very, good, fulcrum for us to leverage, to talk, about these things. And we need to get them going more. We need to say more and do more. The Market Women's Association, the Traders Association, I tell you, you cannot find a more organized association. This is an association that will tell people, don't open your shop today, and you dare not. So if we can only get them to do the right thing, have regular safety talk, do fire drills, and then we need the people who run the buildings to live up to their responsibility. These buildings are not being let out for free. So it's not only Taiwo Oyedele that is seeing millions and billions somewhere. There are millions and billions exchanging hands, but some of it needs to be invested in safety. So we need to ask first for the owners, the operators of these buildings, just like Lagos State asks landlords to make certain provisions like toilets and so on, to provide security and so on. Then we must have that same level of compliance in this sector. Right. And then when it comes to attitude change and all that, all hands have to be on deck. Orientation programs, learning from incidents, establishment of emergency action plans, having floor plans. In a developed country, all the floor plans of these buildings will be in the fire service. We have to change. We have to do better than we're doing now. If not, we're just waiting for the next fire, God forbid.
And we hope that will not be the case, but it's a fine place to anchor for reflection for everyone. We want our beloved Balogun market to thrive and not to be engulfed by fire seasonally. And thank you so much, ma'am. We've been talking with Mrs. Fayo Williams, Fellow, Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria. Thank you for coming through on this one.
Thanks for having me. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas and happy Boxing Day to you.
Bye-bye.
We'll take a moment now. When we return, we'll touch on the environment in the Niger Delta area. Another important conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.